I hit the live button, so I think we're live. Maybe we're live?
Yeah,
are there people out there?
This is it, man. This is it. The last free live show.
Last free live show. Wow. Just in
Before
time
we go back behind the paywall. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, we're going to go back behind the paywall just as this country shuts down again. Our timing is impeccable.
We may have to reassess our doing anything since it's all, but if we let that be the limiting factor, we're going to be doing free live shows basically for the rest of time.
You might be right about that. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another COVID-19 special. I'm Paul E. Code Monkey Cooley, and this is Excited Terry Mixon. Why are you excited, Terry Mixon?
Not only did I finish Spoils of War, but I just wrapped up working on a short story. I've got to give it one more read through, send it off to the publisher, and that means that Monday I get to start on the next Empire novel.
Ooh, sexy.
I'm very excited about that.
Sexy. I'm glad to hear somebody's been, productive.
Woohoo!
I've been buried under work as we try and reach another deadline. But, I kind of miss writing. It's this thing I used to do, and I kind of need to get back to it. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow is my day. My day. Nothing else. My day. Damn it. Anyway, that's where things are with me. So what the hell are we going to talk about today?
Well, I don't know. Somebody sent a letter. I think we should look at that.
Should look at that. Basically, we got asked in the chat last week about whether or not there was a, writing process or wasn't necessarily begging for a golden answer, a golden rule that answers everything.
God, it's a good thing nobody should ask us for firm answers on anything or even correct answers on anything.
If any writer tells you exactly how your process should be, run.
We don't even know what our own process should be.
No, it changes every book, every story, every word we write because we're knuckleheads. I'm sure there are writers out there who have no problem being very, very consistent, but they're obviously better than we are. Anyway, writing processes. How does your writing process start with a book? Let's go with that.
Are we talking a series book or something new?
Fuck the series thing. Let's just start with say you're starting a new series. Say you're starting a standalone book, which I know you don't know how to do, but say you're actually starting a standalone book. No baggage.
It starts with the characters. I have to have some interesting characters. Then I figure out what I want their end game to be, what their characteristics will play into to make an exciting end game. And then I start the book somewhere before that and start going towards the end.
Okay. The genesis of an idea can come from a scene that you imagine, can come from a stray bit of dialogue in a conversation that you overheard at a bar or that you were having with somebody, or just a flippant remark or a flippant joke about some image or some strange thing can give you an idea for a book, can give you an idea for a story. The problem is you have this image in your head, you have the scene, and you have all the emotional context in your mind for that scene at that point, but there are no characters. There's no fill in the blanks to make it come alive. There's just that scene. And so then the way I work is I basically tinker and find the characters that will make that scene work. And then sometimes that leads me down to figuring out a plot that will make that scene work. And then you get things like Tattoo. The writing process changes every book, but that is one way that it can happen. You just kind of have to start writing toward that scene or write the scene. If you have the idea, write it to yourself. What is it? Who are these people? Who's gonna fill out that idea? Who needs to be there? What kind of expertise do they need?
I won't say that's backward of the way I do it, but I start with a memorable character and I often have no idea what the hell I want to do with them. It's the personalities and the quirks of the character that drive me to start figuring out how I can fit them into a plot or a story, which then develops around them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. We work differently.
We do. And there's nothing wrong with either way.
So those are two examples. And as we've said with series, it changes radically. Once you get once you get past the first couple of books, it can change pretty radically as you try and manage all the baggage, along with the car horns we hear outside.
Yeah, that's some moron out there honking outside my house. Probably a neighbor who drives up to the garage across the street and honks going, "Hey, you're going to come out yet?" They also park in the way so I can't get out of my damn driveway because they're morons.
Morons. Morons. Everywhere. Morons. I'm glad we made that break. Anyway.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Get out of my driveway.
The process for putting together stories, I mean, learn how to tell a story.
Well, that begs the question, what makes a story? What makes a decent story? How do you know that you've got an idea that's even worthy of a story? How do you know you have a character? You might have, Billy Joe Bob from Appalachia. What kind of story are you going to get with Billy Bob from Appalachia?
Well, he discovers a rabid possum, which doesn't happen, but he discovers a huge rabid possum that's gone cannibal. He's going out there after all his livestock, and he's got to protect it.
I totally forgot that I actually made a story that basically has Billy Bob from Appalachia and killed you in it. So I probably should. That was probably a bad, call on my part.
You have an idea for cannibals that make moonshine out of corpses. Okay, that's what they use to ferment their stuff. Where's the rest of the story?
It's the struggle to find what he needs to make the shine.
Or it's the struggle of law enforcement to try and find out where the hell this stuff is coming from, because maybe it's having strange effects on other people. Well, what time?
Somebody stole the shine. He's got to get it back.
What time should I? What time frame should I put this in? How about right out? During Prohibition. Now
setting and plot devolves from character for me, whereas for you, character devolves from the plot and the setting.
It depends, but usually, yeah. But I don't know who these people are. I just start writing and I find out who they are. I just know that I need a chemist. I need a petrochemical engineer. I need somebody who knows some biology, and I need a couple of law enforcement people. That's the Black Arrival right there. Because
I start with a character sketch, basically, in my mind of this character when I'm writing. I write the novel, write the short story, then I absolutely have to go back and go through it again, because once I'm done with the story, who these people are is a lot firmer in my head. So when I make that second pass for the story, I strengthen the characterization in the front half of whatever it is I've been writing, so that they're just as strong in the beginning as they are in the end of the story, just as developed.
Right. And that's another advanced issue. What makes a story? Beginning, middle, and end.
Well, let's see. You could also say that you've got a character with a problem in a setting.
Okay. All right. There has to be a conflict of some sort.
There has to be. I mean, if you're just writing something about a character in a setting, there's no driving factor. It's just meandering through the woods. There's no wolves chasing you. You're not hunting for a baby. Who knows what's going on there? You've got to have, if you want to have a compelling story, I'm going to stake my flag and say you've got to have all three of those. You've got to have a character in a setting with a problem.
Yeah. They don't even have to solve the problem.
No, the problem could kill them. The problem could overwhelm them.
The problem could drive them away, or they could give up on the problem.
There's a story, a real life story of a meteorologist. Maybe it's a geologist. I think it's probably a geologist that was on Mount St. Helens when it exploded. There was no way that man was getting out of there alive.
Yeah.
So he was transmitting on the radio what he was seeing until the moment that it blew. That was his problem. What was he going to do? How was he going to solve it? He's going to make whatever bit of life he has worth something.
And so the story is, what is he doing? What is he thinking right until that moment?
I think his last words were something along the lines of, "Here it goes." I'm literally being serious.
That is not something I want to hear. There it goes. Oh shit. Just not something I want to hear.
Well, it's not something you want to have to say if you're on the rim of a volcano either.
No. I think if you're on the rim of the volcano, you're already planning on dying anyway, but I could be wrong about that.
He knew he was dead. He didn't know. He didn't know that day was going to be the day.
Until he got up there and then went, oh shit.
Until things went far beyond where he could get away.
So that's the story. So what's the process behind putting together that story? I mean, it is literally, what is that character like? What do they know? If this is their passion, do we want to throw some volcanology around? Well, that requires us to do a little research here and there. Does this person have a loved one, a mate, children? Do they have an extended family? Are there friends they're worried about, maybe in the same situation? What is everything that's going on? Is there maybe a way they could escape and be blocked from it? It's a pretty good story, actually.
Sometimes if you can't save yourself, maybe saving someone else becomes your goal.
Right.
Make your end mean something. It's too late for you, but maybe you can go ahead and pay it forward, so to speak. Right.
Character motivation. And that has infinite numbers of ways to do things. There's I can't remember what they are, but somebody distilled all stories down to 7 archetypes. And I can't remember if that was Young or Campbell.
I think that was Campbell.
I think it was Campbell.
I honestly think that's way too simplistic, but
if you're
looking for a way to write a book, you can't, just be all over the map. You've got to distill it down.
Yeah. I mean, basically it's, I think it's 7. If Charlie Brown were here, he could probably correct me, but it basically, it literally does cover, I think, all the situations. If you substitute things in, people get really petty. Well, there's no man in this story. Well, fuck you. If you substitute where those things are, those stories really match up, which is, love lost, love found, man against nature, man against man, man against self. And I think there are 2 others, and I don't remember what they are now. But anyway, you can go look that stuff up. Bottom line is, it's all just there. And whether we realize it or not, we are just regurgitating the same stories we've been exposed to over and over again, throwing new twists in, and changing things.
Every single storyteller since the beginning of time. We take little bits and pieces of everything that we've ever experienced, heard, read, whatever, and they get woven back into the stories that we tell. Nothing is original. Everything has happened before. The only time you get in trouble is when you consciously copy something that someone else has done. You can copy the themes of someone else's work. You can make your own Star Wars. You could make your own grand space epic.
Oh my God. How many of them are there out there?
Wielding whatevers. You can write your own Harry Potter knockoff. You can write Twilight. Write a Twilight knockoff. There's some karma in that, some irony right
My understanding is that's kind of a lucrative thing to do these days.
It might be, but as long as you don't intentionally copy the details of what someone else is doing, then you're creating. It's not like you're just regurgitating. You are indeed creating, because creating in this instance is taking the building blocks and rearranging them the way that's entertaining for ourselves.
Yeah. Today, I saw an article. Well, actually, it was last night at 2 a.m. I saw an article in Scientific American about why we should colonize Titan instead of Mars or the moon. And it was a really fascinating article. But it brought up some interesting points. If I want to set a station there, if I want to set anything there, the only reason you would be there, apart from research and living on an outer world, is the fact that there's hydrocarbons everywhere, seas of hydrocarbons. So you could
there's oil. Let's give it some freedom.
So basically, you could there's just a lot more you could do than just oil with it. But the bottom line is, you would have an almost infinite supply of energy around you, nearly infinite. That's a big deal. And then there's water. That's a big deal.
Did it mention some of the challenges, like the radiation field?
Actually, they did. its atmosphere is similar enough to Earth, and it's protected by Jupiter to a certain extent that it actually has enough of a column of water in the atmosphere, or hydrocarbons, I don't know which, to protect you from the radiation.
I thought it was the magnetic field that protected us from the radiation.
That's part of it, but it's also has to do with the water in the air also dissipates it, which I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Anyway, it works in conjunction, but Jupiter does have a magnetosphere, pretty big one.
Yeah, so Jupiter is fine. It's the radiation that it puts out that's not so fine.
Right, and that's what they're saying is this stuff blocks it. Okay, fine. So if I'm going to write about a colony on Titan, I need to include those kinds of people.
You do.
If that's going to be what they're doing there. Maybe they're just, and supposedly you could fly with a pair of wings because the atmosphere is dense enough that you just have to put on a pair of wings and you can glide.
Something like that, if we use that as an example for writing a story about it, what you'd look for is you'd look for why someone would do this in the first place, which you've already enunciated. You would then start listing out the challenges and order those challenges in what ones come first in order to get there. So you'd have the challenge of getting off Earth. You'd have the challenge of making the big crossing through space, dealing with all the radiation in the middle of that journey. You deal with the radiation field at the arrival. You deal with having to get down to the surface. You deal with whatever challenges come after that. So that's basically how you do the story. You develop a character that would fit into that setting, and the problems define the plot going forward into it until you either achieve success or burn up on reentry.
And theoretically, you don't even have to have a quote unquote egghead. You could have just the person who tightens the screws on stuff. be the main character who's clueless about a lot of stuff that's going on there. That makes for a very interesting situation.
Those type of articles are great story generators because it provides so much information for you to pull out the details of setting, the details of plot. And then you say, who would make this journey? Who would do this? What kind of stories would they tell in making this happen? It would be the people making the journey. It would be the people setting up the journey on Earth. It would be the political landscape that wants to cancel it in the middle of it. All of these things you could find. And many of these stories have already been written. You can look at a number of science fiction stories and see we've got goal X in space. Oh, we've got the government that doesn't want to pay for it. We've got the government wants to subvert the project. We've got
the competing company, the competing company that wants us to fail.
Exactly. You've got all of those things, and how you arrange the building blocks to your specific story is what makes that an interesting story to tell.
Phoenix says maintenance guy disinfecting the rocket and accidentally launches himself.
I think I may have read that story.
I think they made a movie about that in the 70s, I believe.
You know, it sounds vaguely familiar. I think that this may have actually already happened.
Either that it was just a cartoon. Who knows? But yeah, the Martian, for example, although he was a very capable engineer, so he kind of had
who now hates potatoes forever.
He will never eat another potato in his life.
Any book that starts off with "I was fucked" is definitely, got my vote.
The understatement. That was a great line. That's a great way to start a book.
It's a great way to start a book. And the other line that sticks out of me was "In your face, Neil Armstrong."
Yeah. Yes, Phoenix, everything's been done. The only thing that hasn't been done is your version.
If you haven't read The Martian, it's not the same as the movie. There's a lot more going on. Read the book. It's fun.
The dialogue in the book, I mean, the movie was good, but the dialogue in the book, because all his stuff is in first person, is absolutely hilarious because he is such an asshole.
It's a fun story to tell when you're an asshole and you're by yourself, and the only person you can be an asshole to is yourself.
Is you. Except for when he sends out, boobies over the communications. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a good book, and it's got that same deal. You got a guy who's marooned on a planet. What the hell is he gonna do? Try and get the hell off. You've
got to arrange your problems. You overcome small steps to get to the big finale. There's just an innumerable number of problems that he had to overcome to get to where he needed to go. And the story of overcoming one thing after another, or having a major setback in the middle of it, and then having to chart a new course, is what made that story work.
A longer story is, if you're familiar with video games, a longer story is nothing more than a big video game, a big quest. All you're doing is you're basically throwing things in the way of the character and have them stumble over it right before they run into yet another one. So you just keep building the problems higher and higher, and the stakes get higher and higher. And even though they're solving these problems, other problems are cropping up they didn't foresee, which keeps driving things, keeps the reader interested, and makes the story just work.
There's that old saying that you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And telling a story is much the same way. If you try to hold the whole thing in your head, you become intimidated. If I try to think about a novel in its entirety, then I almost want to stop writing, because it is such a hard thing. I have to scale my view of the novel back to just the scene that I'm writing, just the portion of the scene that I'm writing. And I take it one step at a time. And when I finish a scene, I go, what comes next? What am I going to do next? If you're outlining, that's the same process for an outliner. They go ahead and they think about these things as they make the outline rather than when they write. But the construction of a story for a writer begins the same way for all of us, whether we're a pantser or whether we're an outliner.
Yeah, it does. And sometimes I know I've done this before. I've had to do with Derelict before, where I wrote, in Destruction, I wrote all the scenes that occurred on Mira before I wrote any of the other scenes of the novel, because I had to get that part of the journey down in my head before I could even start working on the other pieces, because there was no other way to get the timing down. So that's what I had to do. And it was like writing a novel unto itself. It was like 50,000 words of just these folks trapped in this ship. And I kept trying to make things interesting. Well, now I have to go back and write the other 70,000 or 80,000, whatever it was, words to put it all together. And I'm having to do that again with shipyards. I'm having to spend my time just writing two characters' point of view, and I'll get to the others when I get to them, because they're not ready yet.
Yeah. When I was writing Spoils of War, I had two separated characters that didn't know each other that were headed for a collision. And I had to go ahead and figure out what their individual problems were and make those individual problems interesting as they headed toward that inevitable collision. And then once they were together, I had to bind them together and then put the universe against them.
And that's basically, it's no big trick. I mean, all this stuff is common sense if you think about it. It's just, it gets intimidating when you do think of a large story, or, hey, I've got this idea. How can I make this idea come to fruition? It's very easy to doubt yourself and say, oh, that's a stupid idea or whatever. No, it's not. Maybe you haven't found your way in yet, but the idea is not stupid.
The story comes to life in revision. You're going to write out what you're going to write. If you're like me, you stumble your way through the initial plot and then you fix it all in post when you come back through the second time. If you're like Paul, you bounce around everywhere inside the story, write the interesting parts, and then figure out the connective tissue. But he has to make passes as well to go ahead and smooth everything out and strengthen the parts that seem weak. Just because you finish a novel, you read a novel, you go, God, how did that guy write that thing? How did that guy write The Martian? One paragraph at a time, one word at a time, one problem at a time. The skill in being a writer is writing. You've just got to keep writing, and you've got to put the critical voice out of your head while you're doing it. You've got to be creative, even if it's something that may end up being stupid and you end up throwing it away. You can absolutely do it, because it's not like real life where if you say something, it's out of your mouth and you can never take it back. We're writers. You can always take it back.
Nobody has to see that that folder that has all the dead novels in it. Nobody needs to see that.
Oh, that absolutely reminds me. I almost forgot.
Oh, no.
Yesterday, Wild Stallion Press, which is something that Chris Kennedy, Mark Wandry, Joy Wandry, and Sheila Kennedy put together, for erotic content, published Murderous Complications, the erotic mystery novel that I wrote before I started writing science fiction. So I had a publishing yesterday.
I muted myself. Yay!
I totally forgot. It's not my name. It's under Lynn Mixon, so I forgot about it.
Yeah, so if you want to go, have some quiet time, yeah.
If you need some time alone in your bunk. It's not that kind of story. It's got explicit content, but it's got action. It's got fun characters. It's got the same stuff that I write now, except that it's got sex.
Just, don't purchase the audiobook.
I don't think there is an audiobook.
I wondered about that. Are there erotica audiobooks?
Oh, sure there are. I just don't think one exists at this particular point. Who knows if there will ever exist one?
Interesting. Is there money to be made narrating slut?
I am sure that there's plenty of money to be made in that.
Man,
I know of one author that writes harem lit RPG that has contracted with a man and a woman that do the narration for all the books. He writes like crazy, and they're narrating. They must have like 30 or 40 books in various series of writing lit RPG smut. So there is absolutely money in there for narrating that.
Carrie was telling me that the majority of the books she's reading right now, I didn't even know this was a thing, but a reverse harem?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't aware that was a thing.
Sure. Lots of men, one woman.
Interesting.
That's a thing in romance.
Apparently a popular thing, too.
It apparently is.
Matt Baker says, but the corpses are what make this story. I totally disagree with you. The corpses are just dressing on the story.
Just think of the toe tags as markers.
Just think of them as Thomas Reed. Nothing important. Just nothing important.
Oh,
not worth your time.
Rude.
Oh, poor Thomas Reed. He'll be so happy he's going to be in another book. It'll be awesome. Anyway.
After the flack I got for just having a toe left over for him, my God. Apparently it's, got a lot more strength when you don't realize it's coming.
As we've said before, give yourself permission to suck.
Because you will.
Yeah, because
if you start judging your own work, you're going to think you suck. Nobody likes their own writing. If they do, there's something wrong with them in the head, I think. There's probably nothing wrong with them in the head, but I'm going to say that anyway.
It wasn't until this last time when I've been getting the derelict stuff up for YouTube that I really kind of had a chance to listen to the book. And I was kind of surprised at how good some parts of it were. That I didn't cringe every time I spoke a sentence. So it's like time also gives you distance. I know there are some authors who write a book and throw it in the drawer and not touch it again for 6 months.
Yeah.
And they will have a drawer full of that stuff. Stephen King is one of those who just basically writes a book, squirrels it away, and doesn't do anything with it for years at a time, even after it's finished.
He can afford to do that.
Well, apparently he did that even in relatively early on in his career. He was still doing that because you couldn't publish except what the publishing companies would publish. So
somebody says they've seen a cat. I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess there's something wrong with me then.
Oh, there's one on the stand behind me. Maybe
one crawled up there. I missed it somehow, some way. What the hell are we talking about?
I don't know. I got distracted by the cat.
Distance on your work is always a difficult thing. And if you think it really sucks, give it some time, walk away from it, come back and see if it still sucks. And if it does, why does it suck? Then go fix it.
I've discovered that even when I get bogged down in telling a story, that when I'm finally done with it, when I get back to the beginning and start reading it again, it comes back to life in a different way. Yeah. Because I'm no longer struggling to come up with the details. I'm moved into the refining portion. Somebody like Dean Wesley Smith says that, you should never rewrite. And that's one of Heinlein's rules. You should never rewrite unless editorially mandated to. But he also, when he writes, he does something called cycling, whereas he writes a little bit and then he goes back and he cleans it up and then keeps writing fresh words. That doesn't work for me. I've discovered that I need to have bigger chunks. If I stop in the middle of writing a scene, I knock myself out of the story. Whereas if I go back and I read it after I finished it, whether it be a chapter or whether it be the entire book, then it's a lot easier for me to get back into the characters and stay in character rather than being critical of what I'm doing.
Right. That's the thing. I also realize that if I come back to the computer and I write in 250 word, 500 sprints whenever I have time, it's amazing how quickly that all adds up. But the scene is still turning over my mind. I'm not letting it go. And
once the scene is done, it's done, and you can move back and you can enjoy it for what it is.
Correct.
Rather than
While
trying
you're
to figure
working
out
on
what
it,
your next step has to be.
While you're working on it, it could be bad. And that says my writing is mostly code. I can tell you even there, I may have managed to get to the end and achieve what was needed, but looking at it now makes me cringe. That's every coder that ever existed, except for the ones who aren't self-aware. And Phoenix says, you also have the additional knowledge of where the story ends up. You can make the beginning better. That is absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. Rewriting beginnings or writing a prologue or rewriting the last paragraph or the last chapter is a common thing. And you should get used to doing it. Just kind of keep it as, yeah, that's going to happen.
I don't know that that's true, but I did throw out the first scene of Spoils of War because I figured out early on that it wasn't the right one to have. But I rarely do that. I'll normally start where I'm going to start the novel. But when I come back, I can add the details. I can refine the voice of the characters. And that's what I like to do when I come back to the scenes.
Yeah, and that goes with any scene, though. If the scene doesn't work, toss it. Or change it so that it does work and it does fit. But don't be married to it. I've dumped so much writing, it's just ridiculous. Terry's like, you did what? Yeah, I flushed 20,000 words down the toilet. What?
That's where I shake my head and go,
So it happens. Anxiety with this is a very common thing. We've had episodes on that too, that once you finish something or you get afraid to finish it. But once you finish something, you either have one or two responses, which is I need to show this to somebody or I can't show this to anybody.
What he means by afraid to finish it is afraid to expose it to criticism. That's what you mean, right?
That's part of it, yeah.
Every single one of us has imposter syndrome. We all believe that we are the guy in the room that doesn't really have the chops to be doing what everybody around us is doing. And no one is alone in that. When I worked at NASA, there are a ton of brilliant people doing the job there. And I had imposter syndrome so bad. But if you talk to anybody else that was working there, I absolutely had the chops to be there. So everything is relative. You think we're overly critical of ourselves and what we do because we can't see the indecision that everyone else goes through. We can't see the hell that everyone else is putting themselves through over the same thing. Never, ever, ever judge your work against someone else's. The only person you can accurately judge your work against is yourself. Try to write a better story the next time. Try to do something better. Try to add one thing in that you want to add in that you've never done before. Try to build a skill that you've never had in your writing. That's how we improve as writers, not by looking at Andy Weir, who wrote The Martin, and going, I'm never going to be that good. Because he didn't start that good. Martian.
The Martin?
That's what I said. Okay, The Martin's a totally different story. It's a lot
this
of
is a totally
birds.
different story. This
totally
is like
bird story. And
Edgar Allan Poe kind of thing.
If you're an Allan Poe kind of thing. But what was I saying? Now you've totally derailed me in the middle of that.
That's my job!
I was going to say something really good, and you totally derailed me in the middle of that.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what we're talking about.
Let's see. What the fuck was I talking about? No, you can never judge how good you're going to be at something, and you shouldn't ever try because that way lies madness. Just focus on yourself and let the world do what it's going to do because you're never going to be as good as the good writers because they started out just as bad as you are. Everybody has their own career that they build, their own skills that they build. If you judge yourself against Stephen King, you're never going to be good enough because he's had so many years to build himself into the kind of storyteller that he is now. So just focus on your last book and be better than that. and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, maybe after you write 10 or 12 million words, you might be able to give yourself some slack. Maybe.
I don't know that I would give myself some slack, but maybe you can then look around you and go, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
King's a hack. I totally disagree with that, Rick. He's a fantastic storyteller.
King is a hack.
He's a fantastic storyteller.
He is a self-indulgent hack who just writes all these scenes because he can.
I will say his later stuff would not be hurt by a better editor, but I think everybody's afraid to edit him. To be honest, I think they're afraid to edit him.
There's a book that I read when I was really young called Warfish, and it was about submarines in World War II. And there was a story buried into this novel. It was written in the form of a first-person narrative of history, somebody's story that actually served throughout World War II as a submariner. And he told the story about a great commander who he was the executive officer for this guy who just wanted to take risks. He wanted to do these things. And he would talk him down off the tree because he'd say, no, man, this is not going to work out well. You've got to pull back a little bit. But once he transferred off the sub, within 6 months, I think it was, the sub was lost. And he suspected it was because the new executive officer saw this other commander as his reputation rather than the man that he was, and didn't pull him back from something, and he got killed and got all of his men killed, and the sub lost.
That's a
there should be a moral to the story, but I don't know what it is now because I got lost in the story. Don't get lost with King. That's what it is. The moral of the story is when you get that big, you need to have somebody pulling you back from the edge to telling you, no, that's not a good idea.
These are 30,000 words you really don't need. You really
save these for the dome. Okay. Take all these little chunks and put them in the dome when you're done. All right.
Oh God. Anyway, yeah, that's another problem. Find a good editor who's willing to say no.
Does Sue tell you no?
No.
Oh, I doubt that's true.
Yeah, she says no. Yeah, George Lucas is another one, Tony. Exactly.
I couldn't finish the dome. Justin assigned the dome as reading material, and I got a couple of chapters into it. And I was like, anytime I get attached to a character, it gets killed in a horrible, degrading fashion. I'm done. I'm not even gonna put myself through this.
I never read that one, and I don't really plan on reading it either. So, yeah, but he has stinkers. I'm guessing that is a stinker.
I have no idea.
Is what it is.
Who knows what it is, but it was a stinker for me. He's just not he may be a great writer. He's just not the writer that appeals to me. I'm not his demographic.
Right. I'm not George R.R. Martin's demographic either, as you put that out.
Well, don't worry. He's going to finish that next.
George R.R. Martian.
He's going to go ahead and finish, that last book next year. It's going to happen. How long has it been? He was still talking about this, 5 years ago?
I don't know. Not my problem. Not my issue.
He's been locked up in his house for 2020. He should be able to write something, all right?
Well, he's got a sci-fi series coming out, right?
Yeah. Wild cards.
He may be a little busy with that.
Like he's doing anything with it. Somebody else is doing all the work.
Oh, depends on whether or not they called him in as a consultant.
I doubt very seriously they did.
I want to be if they make a movie of The Black or a series out of Derelict or something like that, I want to be a consultant.
Sure, you might want to be, but they're not going to let you. You're too much of a hack.
Oh, damn.
So am I.
Ow, God. Game of Thrones 2, The Thaw is coming. Summer is coming. Do you ever think they just say summer is coming after winter is coming on? Or while winter is there? When winter reaches, do they just say, summer is coming?
You know what I'm waiting for? What? I'm waiting for the Amazon series with Lord of the Rings. I know it's going to be delayed now that all of this COVID-19 thing has happened, but I was looking forward to seeing what exactly they were going to do inside Middle-earth. It's not going to be after Lord of the Rings. It's going to be set before it, most likely. Probably in the Third Age.
Pre-canon.
So, you know, not Silmarillion types. Well, maybe mentioned in the Silmarillion, but stuff that took place long before the movie.
Has anyone actually read that book, or does everybody just have it on their shelf?
I've read it. I can't tell you anything that happened in it anymore, but it's like reading the Bible, you know, begats and begots and things happened. And yeah.
Yeah, Tony, Foundation does look promising, actually.
It does.
I'm sure it will be delayed somewhat at some point, but unless they got everything in the can, but it looks really interesting. I really do have the, I'm really getting the itch to go back and read those first 3 books again. I don't think I read any of the other ones, but I read the first trilogy. The devil did it. Spoiler. Yeah. Once upon a time when Sauron was knee high to a grasshopper.
You know what that reminds me of? The devil did it. It reminds me of the Clue movie. Did you ever watch that?
I think I've seen all the endings.
They filmed multiple endings and then included them all at the end of the movie. And I thought that was hilarious.
Well, first they had it where you only saw that they changed the ending based on the showtime.
That really would mess with people. Oh yeah, no, that's not what happened. That's totally not what happened.
And I think they put it all together. That movie is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Great movie.
And it's got everybody in it. And all these people are dead now. It's ridiculous. Yeah, you know, or no longer able to do stuff. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie. Go see it. It's silly as hell. It's wonderful. Yes, that Foundation. Asimov's Foundation. That's a good series. I read that when I was a kid. I need to read that.
I did too, but it's been so long.
Yeah, that's why it's almost like
I can't remember anything about it anymore. It's been so long.
Historians. It's all about the Foundation, man. It should be fun. I hope they do it right. I hope they do justice to it. Although based on track records, they probably will. We'll see. Yeah, I think that was one of my first sci-fi series too that I read. Now that I think about it, was Foundation. Oh, Prelude? I never read that one either. How much Asimov have you read, Terry?
A lot.
And yet you can't remember anything about Foundation.
I don't know that Foundation was a bit ambitious when I started reading Asimov. So I probably needed to have come back to it because I started reading science fiction when I was 12, 13, something like that. So Foundation may have been a bit much for me to grasp then.
Yeah.
I was much more a fan of the pulps at that time.
I'm so shocked. Naked ladies and laser guns.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what the covers look like, pretty much.
Oh,
that man. And the Conan stories.
Oh, God. Yeah. There's another one. That's definitely another one. Anyway. Yeah. So story is all over the place. Writing it is just basically traveling down and finding the problems that need to happen to make the story interesting. A short story, only one conflict.
Writing is a trip down memory lane where you haven't actually experienced what the memory is going to be yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all part of it. So, right. Get rid of the anxiety.
Yeah. Go bikini with armor. That's what we need. Bikini armor.
Bikini armor. Get your stupid idea and go for it. Doesn't have to be dumb. It doesn't have to be brilliant.
Somebody says, "Oh, that's overused. That's so derivative." Oh, fuck them. Just write the goddamn story.
It's only derivative if you tell the same story. Grab the conceit and go in a different direction. Sigler,
subvert the story.
Sigler and Alex White just did 2 very important books in the Alien canon, and they are about as far different as you could possibly imagine. One of them takes place with a primitive society. That has never been shown before. But guess what? It's still an alien story. So we know how it's going to end because that's how they all end. So, but it's a great book and it's very, very different. Both of those books are very, very different from what you might assume. And those are great ideas that come along with the same conceit and just take it in a different direction.
Tony was saying that now that he's thinking about it, Riddick kind of fits the Conan in space. And yeah, Riddick is kind of Conan in space. I think there's going to be another movie. I heard something about that.
So I'm looking forward to that. They fucked up everything. God, the first one was so good.
They screwed it up by making a grand epic and then not following up on it.
I think they found there was nowhere to go.
There was plenty of places to go from there.
I think once they got the Necromonger's dumbest fucking name ever, besides Unobtainium or whatever it was Cameron called it in Avatar, it's just it's sad.
So that's one of the best lines ever. You keep what you kill.
Yes, that was an interesting society, but as far as everything that the Necromongers dragged into it, it just was like it was never going to be the same story ever.
I think he's going to God, what's his homework? Furia. Yeah, they're going to go to Furia in the next movie. I kind of am looking forward to seeing what's there on Furia.
Yes, Dean or Rick, this is all Dean's fault, and we're glad you sent that as well. Sigler's Alien one from the POV of the alien instead. Yeah, I mean that's another cool one too. Is basically taking a completely different perspective, and there's no reason why you can't have an inanimate object be the perspective. Tom Robbins is Skinny Legs and All. Go read that. That's a fantastic book. Talking paint cans and drumsticks and vibrators, just insane shit. Really good story though. Really fantastic. Yes, everyone on Furia is meant to be dead. Yeah, problem with Riddick is he's too good at things. We've had this discussion before. You can't, if you OP your character, what can they do?
You can almost make a caricature of your own story by overpowering the character.
Or you can come up with a story like The Boys.
Oh my God. I still mean to watch that. I haven't gotten around to it.
I haven't watched it either.
They've approved season 2, so it must not have sucked too bad.
Or you could basically grab the idea for Wanted, not the graphic novel series, not the horrible movie, which had nothing to do with the book. That's another good one. It's the same ripoff. It's just ripoff of superheroes and putting it in a different light. Oh God, it's Screamer. It's like Screamer can hear me. Oh my God. It's horrible. All right, folks, we've been on here for 47 minutes jibber jabbing and flapping our gums. What do you folks want us to talk about, answer, anything else?
This is going to be your last chance to ask live questions, for a while. So ask up.
Yeah. Don't sit there and be silent. Sit there and be silent. The ASPCA does not condone this segment. I told him about that earlier. I warned him I was going to report into PETA. Didn't listen.
Splash paint on me or something.
Your poor cats. Look at that. Look at that. It's just undignified.
Yeah. She looks so unhappy.
I'm shocked to find that there's cat porn going on this show. It's softcore, but still.
There's belly rubs happening.
Belly rubs? Can belly rubs be erotic?
Rick says, am I going to do a sequel to the post-apocalyptic novel? I sure would like to, because I enjoyed the hell out of writing it, but it was the worst selling novel, probably because I had a terrible cover and probably because it was outside the genre that I normally write in. So I want to, but gosh, I really have to come up with a reason why I should, instead of writing one that's going to put more money in my bank account.
Any word on alternative to Patreon yet? I don't have it set up.
Do you have any ideas of what it'll be?
I have many ideas, none of them implemented. The easiest thing for me to do is to basically just put up a buy us a beer button, and you guys
and then collect the names of the buy a beer when we do the thing and send emails to them, and it counts as a one-off.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, that would work.
Or they could pay for a year in advance, something like that. Get it all done. Cost
100 us bottles of beer on the wall. 100 bottles of beer.
Cost us less on our or Patreon. No, but the amount of money grabbed percentage wise would be a lot less. That's for damn sure. Book 3 in the series. My challenge is that it has 2 timelines. Do you guys have good ways of mapping or planning parts of your story so they are cohesive?
Well,
wow, that's a
2
whole
different
episode.
timelines. You use a tool for doing timeline mapping for projects. That could probably be used for timeline mapping for stories. Or are you talking about timelines that are happening concurrently and then collide?
Eon Timeline, AEON, is a great app for that. On the outliner. Not familiar. Good ways of mapping. I would map the part that you're most uncomfortable with, or the part that you are most comfortable with first. Choose one of those, eat the elephant, because if the rest of the story depends on what happens there and how they can collide, like if you're writing a Neil Stevenson book, like a Cryptonomicon, that
Archivos.
Archivos, yeah, Archivos. How could I?
Tony was saying, what was Dave's tracking app, and it's Archivos.
How can I not mention Archivos? That's another
or
good
probably
way
mispronouncing. It's probably Archivos or something else.
It's Archivos. Anyway, a tool like that where you can outline kind of how the things come together. Yeah, that's pretty important if you're writing something like that. You got to kind of keep things squared away. I like with if you've got a setting, I like Mira. All the things that take place on Mira went into a Mira folder in order. And then everything that was happening on SNR Black went into its own folder. And I just basically matched them up and put them in the right order at the end.
Archivos looks like a great tool. I wish I'd found it before I started making my story Bible.
So hopeless. So hopeless. So hopeless.
Because now it's far, far too late for me.
I may have to use that.
I need staff, goddammit.
Editing a dual timeline novel that meets 2/3 of the way along.
That's what I just did.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what I just did.
That's just a matter of writing down what the character has accomplished before the next section, and then mentioning it properly or referring to it properly, so the reader doesn't think they went through that entire section for no good reason. Scrivener's categories work as well. Scrivener note board or the thumbtack board is godlike, just the way it is.
You can even use real index cards if that's your bag.
Yeah, but then you have to worry about people throwing them up in the air and getting them all out of order. It's terrible.
That'll be a hell of a story there if you just go ahead and randomize your story.
Oh, man, that'd be really funny to do, to grab something really big and just have Scrivener randomize the order of the chapters. That would be hilarious. Just see how incomprehensible the book is. Dean
Wesley Smith told a story where he wrote a gaming novel, and he was brought in with another author to write gaming novels. And somebody that worked there decided to be a jackanape when they were being let go and mixed up the 2 books, basically alternated chapters between different books, and it didn't get caught and went to publication.
Oh, ow.
Can you imagine how incomprehensible those were?
Bad. Numbers in the upper right corner. Yeah, that too. If you have to cut them together, that's fine. I've had to shuffle things around in some books, and I've done it that way because I found the draft and basically was like, well, what is it? How does it read if we switch these chapters? Oh, that's better. So the same kind of deal. It
took me the longest time. I mentioned Witcher. It took me the longest time to realize they were actually 2 timelines.
You're not the only one. That's why my father stopped watching it.
I was like, some of this just doesn't make any sense. And the more it went along, I'm like, I don't think that these are happening concurrently. I think I was like 5 episodes from the end, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is concurrent. I think something's going on here.
Not good. If you're going to do that kind of thing, make sure you leave some hints so people.
I want the bard to come back, damn it.
There's a bard. There's always a bard.
In The Witcher? Yeah.
I never watched it.
It was fun to watch, because Henry Cavill is just an amazing actor.
I'll take your word for it.
What did I just see him in? He's going to be in something else. Oh, he's going to be Sherlock Holmes in the new Netflix movie. I can't wait to see that, to watch him as Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, boy. It's going to be all sorts of trouble. Lots of trouble, folks. Lots of trouble.
Watching him in Superman gives you no clue about what breadth he has as an actor. I know that I've recommended to you the Cold War spy movie that he did. Mm-hmm. You really should watch that, because I watched it and I was like, wait, this can't be the same actor that I saw. That this man has talent. Holy shit, how did this happen? There's a personality in there.
That's kind of the way I felt about Natalie Portman when I saw her in Black Swan. It's just like, because she carried all the baggage from the horrible Lucas movies. They will not refer to them.
Was that The Man from U.N.C.L.E.? I'm trying to remember what the movie was now. It wasn't
no idea.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It was, maybe it was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I think it was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. But if you haven't seen that, watch it. It's a great movie that shows some really wild goings on in that particular genre. I really wish it had done well so there would be a sequel.
Yes, Matt, Bard's Tale was a cracking good game. That was a good one. I miss Ultima. Oh, Ultima 3, Ultima 4. Ultima 4 was the best. Ultima 4 was awesome. Okay, it was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Well, there you go. Yet another recycled thing from the 70s or 60s. It was 60s.
Another reboot where it actually worked really well as a reboot.
That was a 60s TV show, right?
It was. Or it may have been 50s, actually. It
was Roger Moore, right? No, he was the Saint.
He was the Saint.
He was the Saint. Okay. I can't remember who it was. It was The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
It's been long enough to where I don't really remember either. It's basically before my time.
I just remember being like 7 or 8 and watching it on the black and white TV. That's
I'm gonna have to open another window and look, because I'm curious. Rick says the 60s, and that was when I was a kid. So
makes sense. Superman is painful. Was that the Superman Returns or whatever it was movie they made not too long ago with Cavill? Yeah, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched.
All I keep seeing is the stuff from the most current one, so I don't know when it actually happened.
NCIS.
Yeah, mid-60s, like 1966 was The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. The original release was September 22nd of 1964. So it was released just a couple of months before I was born.
Wow.
So it's old, folks, real old.
Well, before we close up the show, I want to thank everybody for showing up. And I also want to, in advance, want you to start mourning my beard. Start mourning the beard. It is going away. This thick, bushy thing is no longer going to be, on display every week. I will be trimming it, cutting it, so I can actually fit a mask over it. So don't be shocked when I come back and it's.
I can't quite imagine how this is going to work.
What?
Trying to imagine you without a beard. I'm not sure I can even see this.
No, I'll still have facial hair. I'm not going to shave. Are you kidding? I look like I'm 5. That's not happening. That's not happening. Well, if you would like to send us an email, you can send it. Well, if you would like to contact us about this episode, you can send an email to show@devrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook, or Terry on Facebook, the listeners of the Dev Robot Society Facebook group. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast to see our ugly mugs. We have to thank our host, our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dev Robot Society available for your ear holes. And if you'd like to support the show, and why wouldn't you, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive content, live shows, and things like that. And if the $10 level, you get your name read. And I actually happen to have this thing open if I can find it. And our $10 patrons are Cheryl Winters, Veronica Jaguar, Isabel Cushy, Chris Winder, Drew Bernardi, Nathan Cosby, Rick Shaw, J.D. Barker, Andrew Smallwood, Tony L. Joy, and Joshua Sylvester. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much to all of our patrons. You make this show possible.
Say goodbye, Screamer.
And with that, we are now going to say goodbye. Screamer, yeah, call me. We'll work on your Patty Hearst syndrome. We'll work on that, the Stockholm syndrome thing. It's just bad. That's just terrible. Awful. All right, folks, you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you later.
And we will resume our normal circulation of episodes very soon.
Yep. Bye.